Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Meagan Erickson. I'm the Assistant Director of Locations and Groups. You've probably seen my name around or seen my face a little bit, but I get to take over for Julie on this one and be your host for our large locations webinar today. So thank you all for joining us, and we're going to jump right in so we have plenty of time for discussion at the end. So first off, we know many of you are managing cemeteries or ceremonies at locations with 5,000 or more veterans laid to rest. And we just want to start by saying thank you for the incredible work that you do. Your leadership and your dedication are what make National Wreaths Across America Day so meaningful in communities all across the nation. And we're very grateful for you. So today we're going to walk through some ways to plan ahead and set your team up for a smooth, memorable wreath-laying event. So let's start with the big picture of planning your ceremony. When you're coordinating at a large location, early preparation really is everything. Starting now gives you the time to organize your volunteers, fine-tune logistics, and keep the focus where it belongs on honoring each veteran and sharing that experience with your community. A great place to start is by developing a detailed task list. Break it up into smaller, manageable tips or steps with clear deadlines, and that helps keep everything moving and helps you feel a little bit less overwhelmed going into Wreath Day. From there, you want to think about building out your volunteer teams. Maybe have one team that handles the setup and cleanup, another that manages parking, and another that helps with wreath placements. You can have clear roles that make things smoother on Wreath Day, and it helps everyone know exactly what they should be doing to help out. Another thing to think about is staying in touch with your sponsorship groups. They want to help. They're out fundraising all year round and they want to support you as the location coordinator as much as they possibly can. So keeping communication with them all year is a really great way to help them feel appreciated for their efforts, but also to involve them in your planning teams. You can invite them to take part in your ceremony and, be sure to always thank them for their support because they really are such an important part of this mission. And then, of course, don't be afraid to reach out to local businesses or other organizations for help. Many of them want to support you by sponsoring wreaths, but also by donating supplies and equipment. And we can even provide an in-kind donation receipt form that you can give to them for those donated supplies that they give you for your event. And then finally, keep your Wreaths Across America page updated so that your community knows what to expect. Um, Things like ceremony times, parking info, volunteer opportunities, all of the um, key parts of your event should be shared very clearly with your community. You can also use things like page alerts, send messages in your dashboard, um, and we'll kind of get into a lot of that throughout the rest of this webinar as well. But remember, mostly, you're not on your own with this. Not only do you have your regional liaison team to help you with planning, but you've got tons of helpful materials and templates on the volunteer resource page that can save you time and help you stay organized as you plan for Wreath Day. Now let's take a look at just some this is kind of how you can create your task list. This slide's broken up into 8 different tasks. And I don't want to go into too much detail here because we're going to break each of these down in the following slides. But this gives you a really great snapshot of the areas to think about. Things like grave-specific requests, volunteer coordination, in-kind donations, ceremony planning, wreath delivery, um, all of the logistics and the post wreath day cleanup, all of the things. And one other thing I wanted to mention is the PDF of these slides is available on the volunteer resource page so that you can download it and use it as a checklist while you're planning your ceremony. But you're going to find a whole bunch of other resources in the planning section on that volunteer resource page. We've got templates, all kinds of things that are going to help you with your planning. And we'll go over all of those together today. So think of this slide as just your quick reference list, and it will help everything be just a little bit less overwhelming. Now let's talk about the ceremony planning and logistics. Every ceremony is unique, so it's important to personalize your event based on your cemetery, your community, and what you think they're going to um, relate to the best. So think about things that will make the experience meaningful for everybody while also honoring your veterans. You want to start with the basics like location and sound. Make sure everyone can see and hear what's happening. Consider a sound system and provide seating for anyone who might have trouble standing for long periods. When it comes to speakers and your ceremony script, choose someone early on who's appropriate for the audience and keep it non-controversial. And don't forget, we do have the ceremony script template on the volunteer resource page in the planning section. So you can use that and then just adjust it to be your own. It's just meant to be a template. And in it announces how many locations are participating this year. And a few days before Wreath Day, we will email you with that total location count, and you can just kind of fill in the blank on that template. Then there's a few other things to keep in mind, things like event support. You can reach out to the USO or the Red Cross if you need water or first aid trailers, and even see if local businesses can donate porta potties, chairs, gloves, safety vests, things like that. And then for printing and supplies, local print companies are often happy to help with programs or maps, and floral shops, funeral homes, local woodworkers, all of those can help with wreath stands. You could even ask a local scout troop if they have an somebody who's working on their Eagle Scout who would want to take that on as their project and build the wreath stands for your ceremonial wreaths. And then for media and photography, you can invite local media and assign a volunteer to greet them and give them press kits. And if you want to have a photographer or videographer, it's a good idea to plan ahead. If you're thinking about using a drone at a national cemetery, those have to have approval 45 days in advance. So that's something that you definitely want to start thinking about now and get lined up so that you have those permissions ahead of time. And then if you're looking to have a TAPS bugler, submit your request through Bugles Across America. They're great to work with. And finally, show gratitude. Make sure to publicly thank businesses or individuals who have contributed significantly. A lot of people list them in their program, and that's a nice way to thank them. But when we get to the end of this presentation, we'll open it up for you all to share ideas of things that have worked well. And if others have ideas around that, it's a great time to kind of chat through that too. But all of these steps are going to make the day run more smoothly for you and create a really meaningful, respectful ceremony that honors the veterans in your community. Now let's focus on the grave-specific logistics. This part of planning is very personal. It's about honoring families and their loved ones. So taking, really good care to accommodate their needs is very important. You want to start with marking the graves if you're able to. Local hardware stores are often happy to donate surveyor flags or American flags to help you mark those graves. And, if you're able to mark them, that helps notify the general public of where families are planning to go place a wreath themselves for their loved ones. and helps them to know not to place a wreath there. So that's something definitely good to think about. And then next, you're going to want to organize your grave specific list. When you go onto your dashboard, you're going to go to research and then grave specifics, and that will pull up your full grave specific report. And we're very excited about the new changes on the dashboard. You'll notice on that grave specific report, you now have 3 different tabs where you can see this year's grave specifics, previous years, and even send reorder requests to those sponsors who haven't yet sponsored for their loved ones this year. So it just makes it really easy for you to manage all of those. After your regional cutoff date, you're going to want to download your grave specific report in your dashboard and sort it out by those who are placing a wreath for their loved ones and those who would like a volunteer to place it for them. And then that'll help you make sure that every wreath is accounted for. And then it's also really important to be clear with those sponsors about when they should pick up their grave specific wreath and where that's at, and just kind of the whole process around that. And you can communicate that through your dashboard, through the messaging. And then a few other things to keep in mind for handling the grave specifics. It's a great idea to involve your sponsorship groups in passing those out to sponsors who are there to pick it up and place it for their loved ones. And then also to assign sponsorship groups the wreaths that volunteers are going to be placing, and give them, assigned sections and clear instructions about which grave specifics they're responsible for. And then after they've placed the wreaths, it's a really good idea to walk the cemetery and just make sure that all of those actually did get placed, because we really want to make sure that we don't miss any. And then you might want to keep some extra wreaths on hand just in case any do get missed, or there's a last minute need, somebody didn't realize they had to sponsor it as a grave specific wreath, but they really want to place a wreath for their loved one. This is such a personal thing, and we do want to try and accommodate people as much as we can. So if you set aside some extra wreaths in a secure location that you can pull from if you have issues or you have last minute needs, that's a really great way to solve those things and handle them really quickly. And then if it's possible for your volunteers who are placing the grave specific wreaths for the sponsors who can't be there to take photos, that's a really nice way to show the sponsor that the wreath was placed. And you can easily send those pictures through the grave specific report in your dashboard. And yeah, that's pretty much it on those. Now let's talk about the wreath delivery logistics, which is always an exciting and sometimes a little bit hectic part of preparing for National Wreaths Across America Day. First, keep in mind that your wreaths are shipped free because of many of the loads are donated by our trucking partners. And so deliveries can happen anytime in the 2 weeks leading up to Wreath Day. So it's really important that you're ready. You keep your phone handy, turn off whatever blocks all the spam callers just for that 2 weeks, just so you don't miss your driver call, and have a calling tree set up so that once you know when your driver is going to be there to deliver, you can reach out to your calling tree and have volunteers there ready to help you unload that truck and get the driver on their way to their next delivery. And then let's see, when the wreaths do get delivered, this part's super important. If you have like a wreath counter clicker, that makes it really easy for you to count the boxes. But we want to make sure that you only take the number of boxes that are listed on the bill of lading, and the driver will have that bill of lading when they arrive. So you want to take a look at that, look for your location ID on the bill of lading, and just double check that you've only taken the number of boxes that are listed on that bill of lading. Otherwise, it could leave you with too many or not enough, or the next stop with not the right number. And so we just want to help each other out and make sure we're only taking what's allotted for your location. And if there is an issue with that delivery, when the driver is there, call your regional liaison right away while the driver's still there, because then they can resolve that issue before the driver goes on to the next stop. And then once you've gotten your final count, go ahead and fill out the delivery confirmation form. We will share that with you next month and again in December. And that delivery confirmation form is really important because it helps us know that your wreath got to you safely. And we just want to make sure that every single wreath gets where it needs to go. So you filling that out helps us help you. And we ask that you have it filled out no later than January 31st, but if you can do it right away, it's even better. And then you're less likely probably to forget to fill it out. And then a few other things to keep in mind. Each box has 12 wreaths. They weigh about 40 pounds and they're 16 inches wide, 26 inches long, and 32 inches high. There's 18 boxes per pallet, so that's 216 wreaths per pallet. And our next slide will give you the full breakdown of everything that's in the box, so we'll get to that. But one thing to know is that pallets and unloading can vary depending on the truck that they're loaded in. Some deliveries are going to be palletized, some of them will not be. Delivery drivers are also not responsible for unloading. We want them to focus on getting your wreaths to you safely. And, you know, that time of year, they're going to be dealing with all kinds of things like weather and, you know, things come up. So we just want them to focus on driving and getting to you safely. And then once they get there, if you can have your volunteer team there to help unload the truck, that is wonderful. And then we don't have to have the drivers handle that. The main thing to remember here, though, is to stay organized and be prepared, be willing to flex a little bit. Things may not always go as planned, and that's okay because you guys are all in this position because you're really good at just rolling with things and figuring things out. So lean on your team of volunteers, the people that you've got helping you, and the delivery process is going to go smooth. And remember, you've got your whole Wreaths Across America team, your regional liaison team. We're all working behind the scenes around the clock to help make sure that everything goes smoothly for you. And we've got this down to a system. It's going to be great. But if you do have any issues or you have any questions, just reach out to your regional liaison team while the driver's still there, and they'll get you all squared away. So this slide gives you that quick look at the specs of the wreath boxes. And like I said, the PDF is on the volunteer resource page, so you'll be able to access this later and keep it handy for quick reference. But just remember, every single wreath you receive is handcrafted. They are made by hand, which means every single one is going to be a little bit unique. And that's part of what makes them so special. Since they're made from fresh balsam fir, a little bit of needle loss is totally normal, nothing to worry about. But do remember that these are perishable greens. So keep that in mind when you're handling them and when you're storing them. You want to keep them out of the sun, out of the heat. You know, a little bit of cool air is definitely good for them. And I know not everybody's got cool air this time of year. I'm in Las Vegas and I know it gets hot, but keeping them out of the direct sun will definitely help. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about traffic control and parking logistics. Because for large locations, this can really make or break how smoothly your event runs. First, you want to build a volunteer team just for traffic and parking. These folks will be your eyes and ears on the ground, helping direct vehicles and keep things moving safely. You'll also want to, or if you think it would be beneficial, coordinate with the local police early on. Many locations like working with their local police department for help with traffic flow. And sometimes it's worth hiring an off duty officer or two for that extra layer of safety and organization. And then assign volunteer traffic directors. Make sure they have reflective vests and clear guidance on where cars should go. It really is amazing how much calmer everything feels when people see friendly, confident volunteers out there just helping direct them, helping them get parked. It just makes everything flow so much better. A few other things that you might want to plan for are parking availability. If the cemetery doesn't have enough parking on site, scout out some nearby areas. Maybe there's a school or a church or a warehouse that would let you use their parking lot for some overflow parking areas on Wreath Day. And then think about transportation. You do that, you would want to have some shuttles or buses to help get people from those overflow parking areas to the cemetery. And a lot of times, local school districts will often donate buses and drivers for events like this, so it's worth asking them. And then for accessibility, don't forget about close parking for visitors with disabilities or older guests. Golf carts, small shuttles, all of those things can make a really big difference for them and help them still participate without having to walk a long ways. And then communication. This one's big. Use your Wreaths Across America location page alerts, your dashboard messaging, social media, even local media outlets to share all of the details about your event ahead of time. That way everybody knows where to be, when to be there, all the things, and there's just a little bit less confusion on the day of, and things are just going to run a lot more smoothly. Um, all right, let's see. So now let's talk about one of the biggest parts of the day, wreath distribution and staging. This is where all of your planning really comes to life, and it's such a special moment for everyone involved. A little bit of organization here is going to make a huge difference in how smooth the day feels for everybody that shows up. So first, you want to assign a dedicated volunteer team just for the wreath staging and distribution. Their job should be to make sure that wreaths are in the right sections, that they're distributed fairly, and that they're handled respectfully. You'll also want to coordinate closely with the cemetery staff before the big day. You know, walk the cemetery grounds together, plan how the wreaths are going to be placed. If you're not fully covered, decide ahead of time which sections you are going to cover this year, and then rotate those year after year so that eventually every veteran receives a wreath. And then when it comes to your final wreath count and placement, do a quick walkthrough ahead of time to get a sense of how many wreaths each section will need. And that's also a really great time to post the proper wreath placement instructions around the cemetery so that everybody who shows up knows what to do and how to properly place a wreath. And then for the grave specific wreaths, keep them organized, you know, in a separate area where families can pick them up to place for their loved ones, and you'll have your separate volunteer team handling those and making sure, checking your list and making sure that you're giving them out to the people who've requested them. And then having some maps of the cemetery can also be really helpful and prevent confusion when things get really busy. And then it's also a smart idea, kind of like I talked about earlier, keeping a little bit of like a buffer stock, like keeping some extras aside, just in case something unexpected comes up or there's an issue that you want to just, you know, quickly take care of. And it'll just make it a little bit easier for you. And then, you know, any of those extras that you set aside for issues, whatever you don't use, then you go out and you place those for your general veterans at the end. But it's nice to just have that buffer so that you're able to figure things out quickly in the moment. And then when it's time to pass out the wreaths, here's a really good flow for you. Um, you can do it whatever works best for you and your community, but a lot of people will start by allowing families and their loved ones to go place their wreath first. And that gives them a little bit of a moment of reflection and privacy. And if you've been on your dashboard since we did the new updates, you'll see that there's an option for you to toggle on grave specific placement. And then that will show on your location page and you can put details in there. So say you wanted um, families with grave specific wreaths to show up like an hour before your ceremony to go place their wreaths, then you could put those details there and it will show up on your location page. And you can customize it however you want, whatever works best for your cemetery. But that's a really nice way to communicate that on your location page. And it's a new feature in your dashboard updates. And you can find that in your registration and then go down to where it says ceremony details. And then you'll see several different options for times that you can list on your page. So after families have placed their wreaths, then you could open it up for general distribution. This is especially for the large cemeteries, a lot of times you'll have um, the number of wreaths that you have to pass out might not be exactly equal to the number of volunteers that you have show up to help. And we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to at least place one wreath if possible. So your volunteers that are passing out the wreaths, um, make sure they know to just give out one or two at a time until so everybody has a chance to at least get one, and then people can come back and get in line for more. But that's a really great way to help minimize wait times and also help make sure that everybody gets a chance to participate. And then if you can involve youth organizations like Scouts, JROTC, this is such a great, meaningful experience for them. And they're really good at helping locate veteran graves and guiding volunteers with maps. And, part of our mission is teaching the next generation the value of freedom. And what a great way to do that by involving them on Wreath Day as volunteers for your location, helping you with some of these logistics. So definitely reach out to some of your sponsorship groups that involve youth organizations specifically. The main goal here, though, is really just to keep things organized, keep things calm and respectful, and just to make sure that every volunteer and family member feels like they're part of something truly special. Finally, let's talk about cleanup and what to do with the wreaths after the ceremony. This part might feel a little bit daunting, but with a plan and your volunteers in place, it can actually go really smoothly. And it's also a chance to continue honoring our veterans. So start by assigning a volunteer team to manage the box and wreath disposal logistics. These are the people who will keep the process organized and make sure that nothing gets overlooked. You'll want to reach out early to secure those in-kind donations from local waste companies, things like dumpsters, dump trucks, recycling bins, anything to help make this process just a little bit easier for you. Many companies are happy to help, especially if you plan ahead. Just make sure they can assist with disposal once the containers are full as well. And then if you plan to recycle the wreaths, it's a good idea to create an assembly line for disassembling them. You can recycle the metal rings and use a chipper to turn the greens into mulch. Bows can be donated to local schools or retirement homes for crafts. And it's a nice but small way to give back and reuse those materials. There's also some alternative uses for leftover wreaths too. Local fisheries or farmers might want to use the wreaths for fish habitats or even animal feed. Goats in particular love them. You can also check with the American Legion to see if they can perform a flag retirement ceremony using the wreaths. And after the burn, the metal rings can be recycled. For the cleanup day itself, you'll want to schedule a date with the cemetery staff and then let volunteers know the plan ahead of time. And you'll see in your dashboard under the registration and then the ceremony details, there's also a spot now where you can put those wreath cleanup details and they'll show up on your location page. And so we encourage all of you to do that. That's a really great way to help get more people there on cleanup day, and just make that process go a little bit faster and more smoothly for you. So then you can also send out messages through your dashboard, put up a page alert, share on social media about that cleanup day, and that'll help gather more support for you as well. So with that cleanup, you're going to want to set up dumpsters, trailers, have trucks throughout the cemetery, and use things like backhoes or to compress the wreaths. You can even encourage volunteers to wear gloves and use broomsticks or ropes to move the wreaths to your disposal area. A lot of people have gotten real creative with it, and it's fun to hear ideas about that. But these small tips that y'all share with each other can help make the process so much easier. And you'll see a lot of that too on the Facebook page for location coordinators. That's a great place to share ideas and see ideas of what's worked well for other coordinators. But the main idea here is to plan ahead, involve your volunteers, and get creative with recycling and reusing the wreaths. Not only does it keep the cemetery looking beautiful, but it also extends the mission of honoring our veterans in meaningful ways. And now for what I would call the number one tip for success is build your strong planning committee. If I haven't made it clear yet, this is your chance to really soak that in. It takes a team. You know, you're all location coordinators for large cemeteries, and that can be a real heavy lift, but you don't have to carry it all on your own. Delegation is the key here. So starting now and creating your support team is truly the key. Have a lead volunteer for each of those little teams and have them check in with you regularly so that you know how planning is progressing and you can kind of oversee and make sure that things are running smoothly. But that's going to take some of the pressure off of you from having to feel like you got to handle it all, because you don't. You do have a lot of community support, a lot of sponsorship groups want to help out, and all you have to do is ask, and people will be there. People will help you. Everybody is so passionate about this mission, and they just need to know what to do. So if you can delegate, create your teams, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of you. And then remember too that you've got the volunteer resource page. That is an excellent tool. You've got so many resources available to you there. Especially check out the planning section this time of year. That's going to help you significantly. There's templates on there that actually break down the volunteer roles and timelines of when to do specific tasks. And you can take that and make it your own, adjust it for your own location. And just know that, we put a lot of time and thought into creating these resources for you, and they're meant to guide you, but not be the end all be all. We want you to tailor these to your location and what's going to work best for your community. So use the templates, adjust them to be your own. And if you're creating anything custom that you're going to distribute through printing or anything like that, just make sure you run it by your regional liaison team ahead of time so they can approve it. But check out the volunteer resource page and all the different materials that are available to you. You don't have to recreate the wheel. We've done it for you. You just take it and use it and run with it. And that'll take a lot of pressure off of you and help keep your ceremony organized and run smoothly. So next, let's chat about communication with your supporters. This is one of the biggest important things to having a smooth ceremony. And with the new dashboard updates, we've made it even easier than ever for you to communicate with sponsors, with volunteers. If you haven't had a chance yet to check out those new updates, I recommend you log into your dashboard later today and take a look. It's beautiful. It's so easy to navigate. We put a lot of heart and soul into making it um, just an incredible resource for you guys as volunteers. And so, anyways, take a look at it. You can use your dashboard though to reach out to your sponsors and volunteers by you can send them thank you messages. That's under promote up at the top. Click on that. You'll see send thank yous. You'll also see where you can send reorder requests. And that's great to use for sponsors who have not yet, sponsors from like last year or previous years who have not yet sponsored this year. You can quickly send that to everybody and it prompts them to duplicate their order from last year. So it makes it really easy for them. Takes 2 seconds for them to repeat their sponsorship, and all it takes from you is pushing out that message. And then you can even follow up with grave specific sponsors if you need more information so that you know where to place the wreath for their loved one. You can find that under research and then grave specifics. And you can just go into the straight messaging part too. Under promote, we have 3 highlighted messages that are excellent for you to send leading up to Wreath Day. And these are brand new this year that we've created to help increase sponsorships, but also volunteer participation. And you can look at those highlighted messages and edit them to be your own. Or you can, if you're good with how they are, all you have to do is click the little button that says paused and it'll turn it active. And you'll see it'll turn green, it'll say active. You can even adjust the send date on it. The dates that we have on those highlighted messages are what we thought would be great, great timing leading up to Wreath Day, but you can adjust all of that to be your own. And then, of course, if you just want to send a general message, you can also still do that just like you used to do in your dashboard before the updates. And then making customizations to your page is even easier than ever. We're going to get to that in just a minute, but I just want to point out that those page customizations that you make are also a really great way to keep your community in the loop and communicate with them about what the plan is on Wreath Day. All right. So now let's talk about your veteran grave count. This is what helps us determine how many wreaths are shipped to your location. We will only ship the number of wreaths that are sponsored up to your veteran grave count. Or if you need more or less than your veteran grave count and you've made special arrangements with your regional liaison team. So if you expect more veterans to be laid to rest at your cemetery before December 13th, it's a really good idea to consider increasing your veteran grave count to create a buffer so that you do have enough wreaths. And that's especially if you know you're going to be fully covered. If you haven't looked over your dashboard registration yet, please take a moment to do that before November 1st. That's the deadline to make updates to things like your address, your veteran grave count, some of those key details that our logistics team uses to plan your wreath delivery. And let's see, the biggest thing is we just want to make sure that you receive the correct number of wreaths when they ship in December, that you get what you're expecting to get. And then the next thing to think about is what you want to do with any wreath sponsorships that are beyond your maximum wreaths to ship. Most choose to share their extra wreaths with locations in need, helping us honor all veterans nationwide. And it also helps make their community part of something bigger. So if you want to gift any extra wreaths to a specific location, you can add as many locations as you'd like. Anywhere in the country, really. The location just has to be registered to participate. And you can choose if you want to help fully cover them, or just gift a specific amount. And all of this can be set up in your dashboard under registration, and then I think it's under the the veteran grave count section, I think. The one of the liaisons will pop in chat and tell you exactly where you can find that. Um, Anyways, to let us know how your extra wreaths are handled, um, you can either do it directly through your dashboard, or you can reach out to your regional liaison team and they can update it for you. And then the last thing you'll also notice, the wreathometer here on the left-hand side. This is on your location page and it turns green as wreaths are sponsored, which is a really great way to motivate your community and help meet your goal. A lot of people will, share that image, share exactly how close they are, and ask, do an ask of, hey, we're this many wreaths away from meeting our goal. Can you help us? And a lot of people will, that's when they have a direct call to action, they're more likely to sponsor in those times because they know exactly what you're looking for. So it's a very great tool to share. And this wreathometer is linked to the sponsorship goal that you set up in your dashboard under registration. And it's meant to help increase your community support, but it does not determine the number of wreaths that we ship. That is based on your veteran grave count. So that's the big difference there. So now let's chat about how to make the most of your location page. And this is where we're going to get to those page customizations. Um, you know, Customizing your location page is an excellent way to really make it stand out. And some things that you can do are change the banner photo. Put a photo of your actual cemetery. Show your local community what it looks like there. If you have a logo from the cemetery, you can upload that as well. And then you can also customize the text on your page to share details about your ceremony plans, things like parking, really just what your community can expect. And customizing your page, again, this just really helps create that added sense of connection for supporters, and shows them how to be involved either with sponsorships or with volunteering on the day of the event. In the 2 weeks leading up to Wreath Day, there's so much excitement in the air. At headquarters, we are working around the clock to make sure that all of the last minute orders are added to your wreath counts and that all of your deliveries make it to you on time for Wreath Day. We will communicate with you regularly leading up to Wreath Day. You're going to receive a few different emails through October, through November, into December. So keep an eye on your email. And if you have any questions, you need any additional help, your regional liaison team is just a phone call away, or an email or a text. They're wonderful, and they are all here to support you. But just know that we are going to communicate with you in bite-sized pieces throughout season, letting you know specific things that you should be doing in that time frame. And we'll keep you up to date on everything. But in those 2 weeks leading up to Wreath Day, once cutoff has passed and we're working like little elves, behind the scenes, just getting those wreaths on the truck and getting everything where it needs to be. There's some things you can do to, while you're waiting for your delivery, to just prepare. So the first thing would be, if you accept grave specific requests, finalize your help for placing those wreaths. Download that grave specific report from your dashboard. Give each volunteer their list of grave specific wreaths that they're going to place and instructions for how to do that. And while it's not a requirement to take photos of those grave specific wreaths, it is a really nice thing to provide for sponsors. And if you're able to do that, that's awesome. And then you can message those pictures to your sponsors directly through the grave specific report. Super quick and easy. And then the next thing you'll want to do is watch for emails from us with important information about the delivery of your wreaths, including the total number of wreaths that you're going to be receiving, how they're going to get to you, either UPS or on an 18-wheeler, on a box truck. You're going to get all that information. And then also look very closely. And if you're expecting more wreaths than you see indicated in these emails, you want to contact your regional liaison team right away so that we can fix that for you. And your ceremonial flags are going to ship separately from the wreaths. We ship those in November. And if you don't have them in hand by December 1st, be sure to let your regional liaison team know so that we can reship them to you in time for Wreath Day. And then reach out to the cemetery staff to share your plans for Wreath Day. Ask if there's anything else that you should include. They may or may not want to be involved, but either way, it's important to communicate with them. They're the hosts and we are the guests, and we want to always leave the cemetery nicer than we found it and abide by any rules or policies that they may have at the cemetery. And then we've already kind of talked about the wreath delivery. You know, your wreaths are coming in the 2 weeks leading up to Wreath Day, so keep your phone handy. Count all your boxes and fill out your delivery confirmation form. And if there's any issues, you contact us right away. And then last thing is just watch your email for any incoming questions from the general public and respond to those as quickly as you can. In addition to messaging sponsors through the dashboard, you might consider putting a page alert up on your location page with specific information if plans change, like at the last minute or something, to help minimize questions. But the more you're communicating with people proactively through your dashboard messaging, the less incoming questions you're likely to get. So that will save you a little bit of time on that stuff. And then when Wreath Day arrives, all of your hard work is going to pay off. And we want you to really truly be able to soak in the day and enjoy it too, because you're doing this for a reason also. And not only are you making it possible for your entire community to participate, but this has meaning for you too. And so all of your planning, everything that you're doing leading up to Wreath Day is going to help you also be able to soak in the moment and enjoy it too. So some good things to kind of keep in mind if you plan to arrive at least an hour before the event, so you have plenty of time to set up and organize volunteers. That really helps get everybody lined up so they know exactly what they're doing and, you know, things run smoothly. And then your wreath-laying ceremony should start at the time that's listed on your location page. If you want to change that time that's listed, you totally can. Just go into your dashboard, go to registration and ceremony details and update that time, and it'll show up on your location page. It'll update there. And of course, if you need help with that, your regional liaison team can help as well. And then have a dedicated person that welcomes your local media, show them to the area where your ceremony is going to be held. And if you want to have a press kit ready for them, that's a great time to give that to them. And, you know, that could include things like the names and bios of important people who are attending, such as, you know, military figures, or you can also include a Wreaths Across America fact sheet, a national press release, which will be available on the volunteer resource page under the press releases, and the contact information if they want to follow up and have interviews or anything like that. So just kind of think through the different things you'd want in a press kit and have that available for them. And then during the course of the day, take the time to soak it all in and remember why you do what you do. The mission of Wreaths Across America to remember, honor, and teach is growing because of you. And we are so grateful for all of your hard work and for inspiring your community to get involved and for helping us grow the mission. We can't do it without you, and we truly are so grateful. And then after Wreath Day, take the time to reflect on the good that happened in your community to make your wreath-laying ceremony such a success. This is the time to share stories and pictures with us, but also post it on social media, create a photo album and put it on your location page. Send out thank you messages to your sponsors and volunteers. Send thank yous to your sponsorship groups and let them know how much you appreciated their help. You could also even issue press releases and um, things like that. Think outside the box. We'll also share a link with you where you can share photos that we use on our official Wreaths Across America page. So it's kind of a fun way also to see your location highlighted on that national level. And then be sure to communicate with this cemetery, with your contact over there about your cleanup day. Get that date added to your dashboard. So it's on your location page and everybody knows where to be and how to help when it comes time to clean up the wreaths. And yeah, we've kind of already dug into all of that. So I think that's it on those. So then just a few reminders with social media. It is such a great way to engage your community and keep them involved. But there are a few do's and don'ts. I think these are pretty common sense now, but we're going to run through them just in case. So the first is don't post about deaths, sickness, politics, or religion. That creates controversy and it just takes away from the overall mission. We want to focus on our veterans and share stories about them, to share stories about good things that are happening in your community. Thank your sponsors and your supporters on your social media page. Share the good things that are happening. That's the focus. And then just remember, social media can also help boost your sponsorships. Share the wreathometer, show your progress towards meeting your goal for the cemetery, and let people know how close you are, exactly what your goal is. What do you want to get by such and such date? And see if your community can really rally to help you meet that goal. You can even consider doing a Facebook fundraiser for birthdays or special events. Just remember to fill out the Facebook notification form that's on the volunteer resource page so that we know to give your location and group, if you have one that you do it for, so that y'all get credit when Meta sends us those funds. And then on the volunteer resource page under marketing materials for social media, we update the messaging guide monthly, and we provide Wreaths Across America branded graphics that you can use on social media. They're beautiful. They're very well done. They're great to share, and you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's just a no-brainer. And you can schedule your posts too on Facebook. So use those graphics, schedule your post, and you don't even have to think about it. It makes it really easy to keep your community engaged, even during the busiest time of the year. And then the last thing before we open it up for ideas, let's talk about involving your local media. We've kind of touched on this already a little bit, with creating the press kits. But just a reminder that this is such a great way to boost your efforts and get your community more involved. And you can think about it year round, really building those relationships with your media outlets. On significant dates, it's great to reach out to them and give them press releases. Be ready to share stories with them that highlight veterans in your community and military families. They want to share good news, and sometimes they just need us to give it to them. So by you reaching out and giving them that good news to share, it just makes it really easy for them to highlight what you're doing in your community. And then you can use all of our templates to make it real easy. We have media advisories, press releases, PSAs for TV and radio. They're all available for you on the volunteer resource page. So you don't even have to make them. They're there for you, ready to use. And, as far as different media channels, you can reach out to local news, social media, the radio. What else did we miss? Yeah, there's all kinds of local media to reach out to. And it's like I tell my boys, if you don't swing, you're never going to hit the ball. So swing the bat, go reach out to people, see who's willing to feature you and highlight you in the local news. And you might not get them all, but maybe you will. And it's worth trying and trying to build those connections, build those relationships so that they feature you, throughout the year or year after year. And, it really just helps unite your community for something good. And then these are just some ways that you can stay connected, and I'll leave it up on this slide, but what I wanted to do is open it up for discussion. So if any of you have some ideas that you want to share of things that have worked really well, or you have a specific question about something that you're trying to wrap your head around the logistics of and the planning for it, and you want some feedback from some of the other location coordinators that are on here, this is a great time to ask those questions. And I know we're coming up on the hour. So what I'll do is, for those of you who aren't able to stick around, I'll put the recording on the volunteer resource page, and that way you can catch the last little bit of the recording later on. But does anybody have any questions? Anything that has worked really well for them that they want to share with the group? Don't all speak up at once. I know we got good ideas out there. All right, well, if we've covered it all. Oh, Kevin, do you have something?
Yeah, Kevin in North Dakota, and I just do have one question, not specifically with the event. And by the way, I captured about 5 things I haven't hit on previously. I think I've been running this for our event for 15 years now, so I kind of figured out a number of things along the way. In fact, as our last year, we identified 41 additional things that we needed to change from what we're doing. But the one problem we do run into each year is because we send you a large stack of checks, and it takes a long time for those checks to get processed. And the biggest complaint we have from donors is calling in March and said, I wrote a check in December and it still hasn't been cashed. Is there anything you can enlighten us in, or what we could tell those individuals?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we've done the last year or two is we've streamlined our order forms and our tally sheets so that they can be scanned in once they get to headquarters. So we're able
Okay.
to process those checks a little bit more quickly.
Okay.
But because of the high volume we're getting between November and December, it does take 8 to 12 weeks to process those checks. So
Yeah.
if you have a sponsor that is writing a check and they need to have the check cashed by a specific date, it's a good idea to let them know, first of all, how long it takes for them to be deposited this time of year, and offer to instead have them sponsor online because those go through right away. But
we're there.
okay.
Yeah.
But if you do have a specific sponsor that they really need that check to go through in a certain time frame, just reach out to your regional liaison team and let them know. And they can work with our finance team to make that happen. But we do work as quickly as we possibly can, and those checks should be cashed by February. But it just all depends on the volume and how good people are using just the right forms and not sending things scribbled on a sticky note. And when people use the approved forms, everything just goes a lot faster, and we're able to get all those checks processed quickly. It's when the forms aren't used that it just slows things down, because we got to dig into those a little bit more. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, suggestions, ideas? All right, liaisons. Yeah, go ahead.
I do have one other question. And so, obviously, in our case, we're both the sponsoring organization, and we're doing event. And by the way, thanks for having our page up there for the Bismarck Composite Spider and Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm always kind of wondering about is as I look at our page or look at the website, there's an organization out of Los Angeles that's also sponsoring that headstones. I don't actually see a lot of California plates in North Dakota during December or January for that matter. Uh, and I've always just kind of wondered about that. Um, and recognizing we don't own the cemetery, or any organization can go there. But it would be nice if somebody else is sponsoring headstone wreaths there. They participate in some element of the work. And like I said, I don't see a lot of California plates showing up in December in North Dakota.
Hey, I hear you. I know it gets pretty cold up there. So that's actually a really great question. And, one of the big parts of the mission is we want people to be able to sponsor wreaths for their loved ones, no matter where they're located.
Yeah,
And so anybody can sponsor a wreath for any location. Sponsorship groups can support any location nationwide, and they can support
yeah,
as many locations as they want. So in that case, what you're probably finding is that there's a group in California that maybe has a loved one or some sort of a tie to your cemetery up in North Dakota. And even though maybe they physically can't attend the ceremony or help with the planning and logistics of it, maybe they want to help with sponsorships, and
yeah,
that's their way of contributing. So they're going to support your location, and they're going to help try and direct sponsors your way, which helps you
okay,
out, and it helps them knowing that they're supporting a location that's near and dear to their heart.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Are there any questions in chat that I haven't gotten to? Everything looks good.
Hi, my
Yeah.
name's Katie, and I
Hi,
have a quick
Katie.
question for you. Hi, I'm Cape Canaveral National Cemetery in Florida. I have Ruth on here. She's the site coordinator. I'm the co-coordinator. But I had a quick question. This year we are changing the way we're doing the ceremony. We're actually doing the ceremony after the wreath laying, and that's not what we've done in the last many years. But I just wanted to know if anybody has done that, where they've done wreath laying and then after done the ceremony, if there's any pros and cons that they have or any of their experiences that they'd like to share with us.
That's a great question.
And if not, if something comes up later, we would
Yeah,
love that input just because, again, it's a change that we're making. We want to make sure that, anybody who has experience in that they could share with us. But even if they could reach out to us later through you guys, or we're Cape Canaveral National Cemetery, that'd be wonderful for us. So thank you.
perfect. And what we'll do, if nobody has feedback about that here on the webinar right now, um, your regional liaison team is a good resource. They talk to volunteers all across the states that they oversee, and they may have some good feedback for you around that. So they would also be a great resource.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, if nobody else has questions or things to bring up, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I know we're over the hour, but I just want to thank you all again for joining us today and for all that you're doing to make the wreath-laying ceremonies so special and meaningful for your communities. And, again, if you need support, you need help with anything, just give your regional liaison teams a call. They are always happy to help. And they want to be here for you. We all are. We're all working behind the scenes to help make sure things run smoothly for you. But we just are so grateful for you and for all that you're doing. And again, thank you for joining us today. And I'll get this recording up on the volunteer resource page within the next day or two. All right. Thank you.